so whichever way you look at what we're doing, whichever long-term aspiration we have, for a good rebirth, for liberation, for full awakening, it always comes back to the first step being to release our stickiness to the pleasures of this life. And that's necessary because through that attachment and that craving, we, first of all, we create a ton of negative karma, trying to get the things that make us happy in this life, and to harm whatever interferes with us getting whatever we're attached to, whatever we find pleasurable in this life. So, it influences our karma greatly, and also it influences how we spend our time. If we have a lot of attachment to this life, then our time goes into pursuing that, and it doesn't go into Dharma practice. Or if we do try and practice the Dharma, we get very easily distracted. We start out doing some meditation, and then we wind up daydreaming about the next ski trip, or the next beach outing, or the next music festival, or the next art festival, or the next whatever it is, and we our mind doesn't stay on the object of meditation. Okay, so it all comes down to this overwhelming attachment to the happiness of this life, and that has to do in a very basic way with how we relate to sense objects. Okay, and so in the Pali Canon, also in the Mahayana, but especially in the Pali, the Buddha is always talking about our relationships with the objects of the six senses and how the six senses function. And being able to see the senses as they are instead of the senses and their objects as they are, instead of the hallucinated way that we now see them. Because now we're seeing all these things as inherently existent, as having real pleasure inside of them, as being permanent in some way, everlasting. And so because we misapprehend all these things, then we develop so much attachment to them, because we think that they're going to bring us real pleasure, and that's going to last forever, and and we'll live happily ever after. But the moment we just start thinking about these things, it becomes very clear that all the objects that our senses contact are transient in nature. They don't, forget about even enduring long term, they aren't the same in the very next moment. They change from one moment to the next moment. Okay, so there's nothing there when we really examine to hang on to. And yet if we look in our daily life, where does most of our energy go? I want pleasure. I want pleasure. And so I want nice sensory experiences. I want to see beautiful things and hear beautiful sounds and smell nice things and taste good things and feel good things, with my body. I want all of that, and the way to get it is through external objects and external people. And so we spend most of our time engaging with the external world and don't know ourselves very well at all. We live with ourselves all day long, but we're really strangers to ourselves and don't understand how our own mind is working. So it's quite something when you really start looking at that process, and how almost every thought is, how can I get pleasure and escape pain? How can I get the external thing that I need that's going to make me feel good? And how can I get away from whatever external things give me displeasure or prevent me from getting what I want? And that puts us right away in this very provocative relationship with the environment around us, as we're always trying to get something from the environment, from the people. We want certain objects because we see those objects as giving us pleasure. And here, objects doesn't necessarily mean a material object, but people give us kind words, flattering words, words of praise and approval. Oh, we love that. And also due to other people, we have a good reputation. They talk about us among each other and how wonderful we are, how talented we are, how good we are in, whatever field we're in. And we just eat that up. So sometimes we like that stuff more. That's why I say it doesn't mean just objects, material things, because we like that stuff more than we like the material things. And often we use material things as a symbol of love and approval and reputation. So when somebody gives us something, we feel that they care about us. And when we give them something, we're indicating we care about them. And so we often want possessions because they indicate affection, and affection is what we're really wanting. Or approval or reputation. And, then we seek these material things because they symbolize that, but they don't really make us feel love, do they? And you see many families where the parents are quite busy and they don't have time to spend with the kids, but they buy the kids so many things as a way of showing that they love them, but the kids still don't feel loved, because they need their parents' attention. But anyway, there we are, just always engaging with the external world all day long. I like this, I don't like that. I want this, I don't want that. And yet this external world is momentarily changing. It has no ability from its own side to give us everlasting pleasure. And in fact, very often getting the things we want bring us a whole new set of headaches. As soon as you have a smartphone, then you have smartphone hell. The two come together. When you buy the smartphone, they don't tell you that you're also getting smartphone hell, which is when your smartphone doesn't work. Okay? And when you've put all your data in it and then it collapses, or it gets lost. Can you imagine that? A smartphone that gets lost. The next thing they'll embed a chip in us that's our smartphone, and then it can't get lost. That one will sell very well. The unlosable smartphone. It means you can't bend your wrist, because it's under your skin, but so, we see that our relationship with the world around us and the people in it is so problematic because we have these misconceptions and because we have expectations that can never, ever, ever be filled. Okay? So what does being a monastic have to do with this? What do our precepts have to do with this? Okay? Well, our precepts the pratimoksha precepts, the monastic precepts, the 5 lay precepts, they regulate actions of body and speech. And when we look, when we want something from the external world, how do we get it? It's through saying things and doing things. Okay? So the precepts regulate what we can say and do in order to get the pleasurable objects we want. And in that way, if we live within the precepts, we don't create any negative karma in terms of getting these things. We won't steal, we won't trash other people, we won't use cruel words, we won't flatter them or, say things to them so that they can't say no. So our precepts really help us regulate our actions of body and speech. Yeah. And then, of course, because our body and our mouth don't move unless our mind moves, then the precepts, directly affect the mind as well, because we have to work with our mind if we're not going to break these precepts. Okay? So we voluntarily take the precepts. Nobody is forcing us to take them. Absolutely nobody is. We voluntarily do that because we see that keeping them helps us do what we want to do, which is purify our mind, create merit, and not be so attached to the external world. Okay? So that doesn't mean we withdraw from the external world. Of course, as people practicing the Bodhisattva path, our final aim is to really engage in the world in a very healthy, wonderful way to benefit sentient beings. But before we can do that, we have to learn to relate to the world in a healthy way. Yeah? And the way we are now is not so healthy. Because we're basically pleasure addicts. And whatever we need to do to get pleasure, we'll do it. Yeah? Do you think? Are you a pleasure addict? Will you do almost anything to get some pleasure? Yeah? Now some of us have different objects of pleasure, different objects that we're more attached to than others, that we really go after. Some people really want a lot of money and possessions because that makes them feel successful. Money and possessions symbolize success, symbolize your value as a human being for some people. Yeah, and society emphasizes this a lot. So some people, are always looking at material things and how to accumulate them and the quality of the material things, because if you have really nice material things, your friends are going to think much better of you. Yeah? So it doesn't matter what, we all have in our own little lives attachment to certain material things that we, that's going to bring us praise and benefit and reputation and pleasure from our friends, or that's going to symbolize our success. So if you're a hockey player, the quality of your hockey stick and a hockey puck is like a really big thing because you can show those off to your friends. And I go, oh wow, you got this best hockey puck. Look at that. That's so wonderful. This is so good. It must really go across the ice very well. And where did you get it? And how much did it cost? And wow, you must be very successful if you're able to afford that hockey stick and that hockey puck. And I'm very impressed. Yeah. Whereas, it's like, I'm lucky if I can tell what a hockey puck is. A stick I can manage, but I don't know that I've ever held a hockey puck. Except now that we have them in our bell, the mallet of our bell is made of 2 hockey pucks, but it's covered up. I can't even see what they look like. Yeah. Okay. So, You know, so for some people it's like, that's so important. For me, I don't know what it is. But maybe, you know, I get my status through, well, look at my robe, and, you know, look at this color. This color is so nice, and it's stitched so well, and it's so soft. Yeah, and look at my new shoes that my benefactor got me. These are really cool. You know, they have the cushion inside of them and the arches, and notice all these different little, you know, things on it, and they kind of light up at night, and you know, they have O Mani Padme Hum written around them. Yeah, I have these really, isn't this fantastic? Look at my shoes. And then, you know, my friends are going to go, oh, you have a very nice benefactor. You must be a good practitioner, or you're very clever, you know. You must have something that your benefactor wants you to give you shoes with O Mani Padme Hum written in glowing colors, you know, on the top of the shoes, not on the bottom, because that wouldn't be too cool, but on the top of the shoes, you know. Wow. Oh, look at me. You know. So, whereas, you know, a hockey player, most of them wouldn't even know what O Mani Padme Hum was. Okay. So, you know, we all have our own little things, yeah, and we have our own set of people that we want to give us approval, and we want to praise us. And we have specific qualities we want people to praise us for. You know, probably most people want their parents to praise them, but then it's very strange. You know, it's like if I want my parents to praise me and you want your parents to praise you, if there were inherent value in being praised by those people, then your parents praising me would make me feel just as good. You get what I mean? If there were inherent goodness and pleasure in those people's words. So your parents praising me would just bring me as much as joy as my parents praising me. But that's not the case at all. Yeah. And my parents praising you, it's like, well, so what? Yeah. So it's interesting how it is, how we gauge it. And we want to be praised in certain ways. You know, some of us want to hear, oh, you're so much better in this than your brother or sister. Finally, we're getting the, you know, they were always better than us in other things. Now, Mom and Dad are really realizing that I'm good in something and better than my brother and sister. Yeah? Yeah. So, we want, you know, reputation in a certain way. Yeah, you want to be known as a good this or a good that, but of course other people don't want that for themselves. But it's real important, you know. Each of us has our own thing that we want to be known as a good whatever for. And so then we do all sorts of backflips to try and get that praise. You know, and try and get that reputation, and maybe they'll even write us up in a magazine, you know, or on an online blog. Somebody will, you know, see us and like, wow, you should see her type. Nobody ever types as fast. Like, yeah, whatever it is we do, you know, we want pleasure and we want acknowledgement for it. Yeah, so the typist wants a good reputation as a wonderful typist, and the janitor wants a good reputation as a wonderful janitor, and the politician wants a good reputation for, I don't know what, yeah, being a good politician, you know. So we all want reputation in our own ways, but that, you know, that's a common denominator, and then we do all sorts of funny things to get that reputation, or to get that praise, to get that acknowledgement. No? We make sure other people see the good things we've done. We make sure that they know about this and that. Yeah. Depending on, we do all sorts of other things, you know. Sometimes when we don't get the praise and acknowledgement we want, we kind of whimper a little bit and feel sorry for ourselves. Or sometimes we do the thing of putting ourselves down so that other people will come back and say, oh, but you're really, really good. You're so good, the good. Oh, no, I'm not very good. It's like nothing. No, you're very good. You really have to see that. Yeah? So we do all sorts of things. Yeah? And it's all, where does it get us in the end? Yeah? Does it help us at the time of death? Does it create the cause for a good life, a good rebirth? Does it get us closer to to reputation, to liberation, to liberation and awakening? You know, you can have the greatest reputation you want. When you're alive, does that mean that you're going to get enlightened before everybody else? No. Reputation has nothing to do with, our karma. Yeah? Or our ability to guide our own mind at the time of death. Yeah? Have a great reputation, even as a Dharma practitioner. Wow, that person's so good, look at this and that, and the way they lead chanting, and they're so kind. But if we haven't really practiced at the time of death, can we guide our own mind? Okay? So when we really think about these things, we see that, approval and praise and reputation and being known as successful, all of that does not really get us what we want. If our genuine aspirations are spiritual aspirations, yeah? If our genuine aspirations are not spiritual, then all these external things are going to bring us great pleasure, at least until we go into the hell that's associated with them. Yeah, so they'll bring us pleasure until, you fall in love and it's like, this is fantastic. And then you go into relationship hell. Yeah. As soon as you have a relationship hell comes with it. Okay, so these things are, just, it's like that. And, so to be aware of that and really look at what is it exactly that I'm wanting? What are my genuine aspirations in life? Yeah. And if our genuine aspirations have a lot to do with worldly things, and yet we do have spiritual aspirations, then to really reinforce our spiritual aspirations and strengthen them and nurture them, because we see in the long run those aspirations are going to be much better for us and for the world than our aspirations for only the happiness of this life. Okay? And then we start also applying the antidotes to the attachment to the happiness of this life, because we don't want to waste our time just chasing all these things. Because we have another motivation that we really value much more. And even if the whole world says we're crazy, yeah, the whole world says, what are you doing going on a meditation retreat, sitting there looking at your belly button? That's ridiculous. Why don't you go get a life? So even if the people, all your friends, your parents, your family, even everybody says that to you, it doesn't make you have doubt. It doesn't shake your mind, because you know why you're doing it, and you know what your long-term aspirations are. Yeah, and you know the path to get them, and you know that, canceling the meditation retreat to go, to the beach house for 2 weeks with your family, where you overeat and, go swimming and play music and get drunk and, have a barbecue and make s'mores and all these kinds of things, that even that might make your family and friends very happy for the week that you're there with them, at least when you're not fighting, because there's no guarantee that if you go with them there's not going to be quarrels and disagreements. There usually are when people are together. Yeah. So you can do all of that in an attempt to please them, but what does it do in the long term? Yeah, our time is wasted. We've accumulated a lot of imprints of attachment and self-centeredness, and we haven't gained any new insights or done any purification that we would have gained or had we gone to the meditation retreat. Okay, so we have to be willing. If you're a genuine Dharma practitioner, you have to be willing to to just bear whatever other people say and think about you. Yeah, and I know that it's kind of a new concept because most of us, we are so sensitive to this, so sensitive to how other people treat us. We're so easily offended, so easily taken back, so easily insulted. Yeah, and that's just on a worldly level. Just, forget if people are saying things about Dharma or whatever. Just on a regular worldly level, we're so easily offended. Yeah. Somebody says you're pigeon-toed. Oh my goodness, who do you think you are saying I'm pigeon-toed? Well, I can walk very well. My toes don't point inward. Oh, don't comment to me about my pigeon-toedness. And we get angry and we're like, whoa, we go through the ceiling. Yeah? Somebody looks at my bunions. You have big bunions. What are you commenting on my bunions for? My bunions are perfectly all right. I love my bunions. Well, actually, I don't, but, I have to live with them. Yeah. Yeah? So, we're sensitive even about stuff like that, let alone if people say, what are you doing practicing the Dharma? That's just such a waste of time, and you're such a talented person. You could be out having a good career and making a lot of money, and you've given up all your talent and all your ability to sit there on some ridiculous cushion. What are you doing? You say you want to benefit the planet. What are you doing to benefit the planet? You're just sitting there. If you really want to benefit people like you say you're going to do, why don't you go out and do something in society? I know all the arguments. Just give me the scene. I can play it, Yeah? Yeah. You said you don't want to harm anybody, but you're harming us. Everybody else has children who have good careers. This one's, daughter is a lawyer, and that one's daughter is a doctor, and that one's daughter is, a chief executive, and all your brothers and sisters are doing so well. And what are you doing? You're so talented, and you're going off and sitting there on some ridiculous cushion, and chanting these things with some prayer beads, what are you praying for? There's nothing to pray for anyway. You say you want to benefit society, go do something. You were a teacher, go ahead, go teach, go do this, go do that. Go be a nurse, go be a doctor, do something if you want to benefit anybody. What do you do sitting up there in this place, It's ridiculous. Right? I should have been a mother. I'm joking. So, if we're really going to be able to practice Dharma, we have to be able to bear that. And we have to bear it because very often, if a stranger says it, it's one thing, but sometimes the people we care about the most say it. And we have to be able to bear it because our own mind is extremely clear about what we want in life and what is meaningful in life and what we need to do. And we're so crystal clear that people can do and say whatever they want, and it doesn't make us doubt ourselves. Yeah? So we have to build up that kind of strength of mind. Yeah? And the way we build up that strength of mind is by repeated meditation on the faults of cyclic existence and on the impermanent nature of all these things in the world, and how they can't bring us lasting happiness, and how they lack an inherent nature to start with, and how we don't even have an inherent nature ourselves. Yeah? And how all these people praising us are not solid, concrete, permanent people. They're just karmic bubbles created by causes. You know, and the thoughts in their minds are just like the thoughts in our mind. They're just thoughts. And thoughts aren't necessarily, you know, the thoughts come and go. They're impermanent themselves. But the content of the thoughts is not necessarily true. Just because somebody thinks something doesn't make it that situation true. You know, so the only way we're going to develop that internal strength is by doing a lot of meditation in this way to clearly see things the way they are, on a conventional level and on an ultimate level. You know, and if you don't do that kind of meditation, really examining what we're attached to and what it really is and how our mind of attachment works. If we don't do that, we may say lots of mantra, we may do lots of, you know, highfalutin kind of practices, but there's not going to be a lot of change in our mind, because our mind's still going to think like worldly people. Yeah? So this kind of meditation is so important. Yeah? It's not about zoning out and going into la-la land and samadhi. It's about, if you're going to develop samadhi, develop it so we can see the impermanent nature of something. Yeah? So that we can see the unsatisfactory nature of something very, very clearly. Okay, so precepts really help us do what we want to do and not do what we don't want to do. Okay? And so, you know, taking precepts comes really after investigating, you know. Do I want to, you know, when most of us would say, yeah, I don't want to kill. Okay? And most of us would say we don't want to steal. But do we want to give up little kind of cheating things we do to get more than our fair share? Do we want to give up that? Yeah. Do we really want to give up using the office account for our personal expenses and have to pay all those things we enjoy from our own personal expenses instead of having the office pay for it or our employer pay for it? Do we really want to give that up? Yeah? So, you know, to really look at the things that the precepts govern and ask ourselves, yeah, you know, like it sounds good, oh yeah, I'm going to give up lying and all these things. That's no problem. You really want to give up lying? Really? Really? What about those little white lies? What about all the excuses you make when you don't want to tell somebody exactly what you're thinking or exactly what you're doing? Do you really want to give up those? Do you really want to give up lying on your taxes? Yeah? So to, you know, do some investigation here And when we do those actions, what kind of result do we get? And what do we have to give up in order to not do those actions? It means we have to take some loss. If I stop using the office account for my personal things, it means I'm going to have less money and I'm going to have less pleasure. But I'm willing to do that because for me, the value of having a clear conscience, the value of not creating negative karma is of much greater importance to me than having that extra money that I would normally get by my little devious ways. Yeah? Or, kind of harsh words. Do we really want to give up harsh words? What about when somebody is completely off the wall and treating us horribly? Do we really want to give up harsh words? I mean, it's so much a part of us to sit there and just throw it at them when we're pissed off, isn't it? Do I really, that means that somebody's going to treat me like that and I'm not going to say anything back? Impossible. I don't know. Yeah, other people should give up harsh words, definitely. Especially the harsh words they say to me. Yeah. But if somebody's treating me bad, why should I give up harsh words? They deserve it. What am I supposed to do? Go make prostrations at their feet? Yeah? And then to really think, well, yeah, I want to give up harsh words. Why? Because to me, in my value system, harsh words are an unacceptable way of dealing with conflict. Because I see that they don't work. That I'm miserable when I say harsh words, other people are miserable. I create a ton of negative karma, which is going to bring me suffering in a future life. I don't want to do that, no matter how somebody treats me. I'm going to find another way to deal with the problem besides dumping my anger and harsh speech on them. But to really come to the point where we can really think that, it's not always so easy, is it? Yeah, when we don't think about specific situations, it's very easy to say, yes, I want to give up harsh words. But when we think about the specific situations in which we say them, and then we think of not saying them, so often we're totally bereft of any other alternative for dealing with the situation. We've never thought of other ways of dealing with conflict besides just throwing the pie in somebody's face. Yeah, and so it's going to mean a huge change in us of really thinking, okay, yeah, how am I going to react when somebody says this? Not only what am I going to do, but how am I going to react in my mind? Because before we can figure out what to do, we have to get our own mind calm. So how am I going to think about this situation so I'm not going to just trash this person? Yeah? Okay? So all of this, comes through doing a lot of the analytic meditation where we really take out real life situations in our life and look at them. Yeah, and apply the precepts to them, and then look at our mind and apply all the lojong or thought training teachings so that we can work with our mind in order to keep our precepts, in order to to make our life meaningful and be able to accomplish what is our deepest spiritual aspiration, no matter what other people say, no matter what they do. So, to do that, we need a lot of inner strength. Yeah? A lot of clarity of mind and a lot of inner strength. That inner strength is what fortitude is. Okay? Yeah, that inner strength to bear difficulties, to bear insult and abuse. Yeah. So actually, when we're talking about the first Vinaya, I was going to give a little bit of introduction to this, but here it is, right here. The first Vinaya by the Tathagata Vibhasin says fortitude is the first and foremost path. There it is. And there's why, that whole explanation I just gave, is why patience and fortitude are the first and foremost path. Because without them, we're going to crumble, and we're not going to be able to practice consistently. Okay? So fortitude is the first and foremost path. The Buddha regards this as the supreme in his teachings. Why would he regard this as supreme in his teachings? Yeah. Why do you think the Buddha would regard fortitude as supreme in his teachings?
Well, without being able to manage your own mind, then you're just continually reacting to what comes at you. And you can't really practice, you can't change, you're just externally referenced.
Yeah, your externally referenced. Our responses are push-button, habitual responses. Yeah. Yeah.
What good is any quality if you can't sustain it under difficult conditions?
Yeah. What good is any quality if we can't sustain it in difficult circumstances? Yeah. Yeah.
How can you even work on subduing your afflictions because they're so ingrained that without fortitude, you would give up far too soon.
Yeah. So how can we really, our afflictions are so strong and so deeply embedded in our mind, how are we going to counteract them if we don't have fortitude that enables us to have strength and consistency? Yeah.
The reason why difficult people are so important is
Yeah. Why difficult people are important for our practice. Because without them, we'd never develop fortitude, would we? Yeah? Yeah. So a certain level of hardship can be very helpful for us. Too much hardship can overwhelm us. Not enough hardship spoils us. But a certain level of hardship gives us, internal strength.
So, fortitude is when you're patient, when you're directly working with your young.
You're directly working with?
Fortitude including patience when you're directly working with young.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that's what it is. There's three kinds of patience or fortitude. One is to be able to endure abuse and insult. So that's an antidote to anger that we get, when people bother us or attack us or whatever. The second kind is the fortitude of enduring difficult circumstances, such as illness, or poverty. Yeah. So that's a little bit different kind of internal strength than the internal strength not to get angry when somebody mistreats us. Yeah. So don't. That's what. Yeah. Fortitude. It really is quite a bit. It encompasses a lot. Yeah, so it is the antidote to anger, but also it's the antidote to feeling sorry for ourselves and to crumbling under pressure, like when you're sick or poor or whatever it is. Okay, And then the third kind of fortitude is the fortitude to practice the Dharma, because it takes a certain amount of courage and fortitude to confront our afflictions, and especially to familiarize our mind with the nature of emptiness, because that challenges our entire feeling of who we are, which can be very unnerving and very scary. Yeah? But if we're like, we have to develop an incredible clarity of how ignorance is the cause of our suffering, and only through having that clarity can we then really bear to meditate on emptiness and go through this dismantling of who we think we are. Yeah. Okay, so fortitude it comes at the practice, these three kinds of fortitude, from different angles, and we need to cultivate all three. Yeah. So the Buddha regards this as supreme in his teachings. Yeah. I mean, I suggest you spend some time in your meditation really thinking about that. Buddha Vipassin, fortitude is the first and foremost path. Now, why in the world did he say that? Why is that? The Buddha regards this as the supreme in his teachings. Why is that the supreme? Yeah. Of course, saying it's supreme doesn't mean that it's more important than bodhicitta or more important than wisdom. Whenever in Buddhist things they say the supreme or the most excellent, it doesn't mean that there's only one. There could be many. Okay. One who has left the household life yet annoys others is not called a Shramana. Okay, so a Shramana, there's different etymologies of it. One etymology is one who strives. Okay, so Shramana is one who strives for liberation, for full awakening. Another meaning of Shramana is to subdue negativity or subdue evil. So in the Dhammapada, it says someone who has pacified evil is called a Shramana. Okay? So a Shramana it's the general word in ancient India for a wandering ascetic. That's there were many Shramanas from many different kinds of teachers. Yeah? So they were all wandering ascetics. So people who were trying to detach their minds from clinging to the happiness of this life, and who pacified the evil or the negativity that comes from having so much attachment and being so externally oriented, and for seeking the reputation and everything, the negativity that comes from all of that. Okay. Now, why would the Buddha say one who has left the household life, so somebody who has gone forth, as a monastic, as a wandering ascetic, yet annoys others, is not called a Shramana? That means if I just bug somebody a little bit, I'm not a Shramana? That I'm not a monastic anymore? No, Okay, what does that really mean? One who has left the household life, yet annoys others.
It would be if you're annoying others, whatever that means, you're not really, you don't have your mind in renouncing where you are, and what you do.
Yeah.
You're just pulled in again.
Yeah, so if we're annoying others, it's very often because of some craving, some attachment, we're wanting something and we're going to get it no matter how it affects other people, or we're upset because of what somebody did. We don't have fortitude, so because somebody did something that we don't like, without the fortitude, then we're going to let them and everybody in the environment know that we're displeased. So we annoy a lot of people. Yeah.
I was thinking about a memory I have, which really relates to this because it shows how, just the expectation for one to be called a shamana, for the world to know, to validly label someone as a shamana, is that they're pacifying their afflictions, and that's shown externally. And once when I was at the Mahabodhi temple, there was a group of monastics who, I don't know what tradition, if it was even Buddhist or not, but there was some money that they had, and there were maybe 12 of them, and then they started yelling and pushing each other and kind of fighting. I don't know if that's through fists, but really kind of getting violent with each other to get this money. It was very, very disturbing. I was really shocked, but it was just clear, okay, those aren't really monks then. I mean, they were just who are these people?
Right. Right.
They're dressed in orange robes, but in shaved heads, that's about it.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, well, there's, people who come who dress as monastics in order to go, collect alms or collect money. In Singapore they were having a problem with this. People going and sitting in the subway stations. And in New York you see people going and dressing as Catholics, monks and nuns. You don't know if they're real Catholic monks or nuns or not. You don't know. I remember when we were there for His Holiness's teachings, and there was one nun sitting there, somebody wearing nun's robe. And I thought, well, she's really a nun. I want to help her. Yeah. But also, what's she doing sitting here? Yeah. Yeah. So it's hard, people do this. And actually, if you do this, you dress up as a monastic in order to get one of the perks of being a monastic, that disqualifies you from ever ordaining. Yeah, because when you get ordained, there's certain questions that they ask you about the 13 big hindrances, and that's one of them. Have you ever, done that? I forget. There's a special term that they have for it. It might be like, have you ever been a thief? A thief of the Dharma, stealing in that way. Okay? So does that mean that we always have to be, perfectly subdued all the time? Yeah. Some people are going yes, and some people are going no. Yeah. Well, the ideal is that we are. The reality is that we aren't. Okay? Again, that's why we take the precepts, because we're imperfect beings. Yeah? If we, were always subdued, we wouldn't need to take precepts. There would be no need for them. Okay? Yeah, so we blow it sometimes. But I think the difference is when we blow it, the difference than when a worldly person blows it, is afterwards we regret it. We have a lot of regret. We do purification. We again make the determination to, work on ourselves in the future. And we admit what we've done. We don't conceal it. We don't justify, rationalize, or deny it. We admit it. Yeah, and so this process, when you're ordained, of being able to admit our faults is something that's really emphasized very much in Vinaya. Yeah, and because when we do our posada every 2 weeks, our purification and restoration of precepts, we have to admit our transgressions, our offenses. And, when you get into Vinaya more, you see that when people don't admit their offenses, then they can receive very strong reprimand and penalty from the Sangha. There's certain Sangha actions that you take if somebody doesn't admit an offense as an offense, and you do that as a way of really emphasizing to that person, hey, you've got to see that what you did is a negative action. Because how are you going to grow in the Dharma if you can't see that? Yeah? Or if you try and conceal things, again, the Sangha can take very strong action, and you have to, do certain things. And again, it's out of kindness, because the Sangha is emphasizing, again, even if you admit to yourself that you did it, if you're concealing it, how are you going to grow? You need to be able to admit it. You need to be able to make amends, because it's only through making amends that we purify, that we heal. Yeah. When we deny we did it and conceal it, when we justify and won't even think of it as something negative, then who in the end is suffering? Yeah, it's us who's suffering from that, isn't it? Because we're impeding our own spiritual growth. Yeah. It's inconvenient for the people we live with if we don't admit our wrongdoings. But in terms of the person who really reaps the harmful effect of it, it's us. Because karma is much more important than, the short-term relationships and what other people say and think. Mm-hmm. So when it says one who has left the household life yet annoys others is not called a shramana, I think in parentheses you have to put one yet annoys others and conceals it or denies it and does not make amends. It's not called a shramana, because that person's lost the motivation for self-improvement. Yeah. As long as you have that motivation, as long as you're really trying and in your heart you want to change, you're doing the work. Yeah. It's when we get proud and arrogant and, I'm protecting my reputation and nobody can speak that way about me and everything I do is right. That's when we're really in trouble, isn't it? Yeah. I mean, this ties in very much with what Jeffrey's been talking about with the mental factors, doesn't it? Okay. So there's a lot in just that one verse. Yeah. This is the Vinaya of the Tathagata, Vipasyan, the unattached one, the fully awakened one. So if we sit down and think about that one verse in depth, there's a whole lot there, isn't there? Yeah. So, these kind of verses that you may read sometimes, in the Dharmapada or here or any Dharma teaching you read, sometimes you just read a few lines or one paragraph. It's so helpful at that point to really stop and think about it. Like, why did the Buddha say this? What did he really mean by this? Yeah, and really investigate and ask yourself and discuss it with other people. And then these verses really come alive. Because these verses we read when the bhikshus and bhikshunis, when we do our posada every 2 weeks, we read these verses. Yeah? So I think next time we do it, it's going to have a whole lot more meaning than all the times we've read it before, because we're really stopping to think about, what it really means. So questions or comments? Yeah?
I guess I was also thinking about maybe that Sramana is almost, it's an impermanent state.
Mm-hmm.
So that by annoying someone or externalizing or losing mindfulness of the renunciation, you're falling out or forgetting that state, and then you return to the state of the Sramana.
Oh, okay. So, when you say falling out, you mean like mentally you're separating yourself?
Upon externalizing, you're no longer in that state.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, so you're no longer in that state of somebody who's really trying and who's really focused on their spiritual goal. Yeah, okay. So you distance yourself from it. Yeah, and then you restore yourself to it. Yep. Mm-hmm.
I found this one when you were talking about what we have to give up, when we're looking at why we want to keep the precepts, when you said we have to accept the loss of the money and stuff.
Yeah.
That puts a whole new spin on that, because when we want to change a behavior, when I'm resistant to it, I think that I'm going to be giving up something.
Mm-hmm.
But when I look at it, when I looked at the sentence, I said, what I'm giving up is one of the 8 worldly concerns. It's not something virtuous I'm giving up. It's something around money. It's something about status. It's something about possessions. It's something about comfort. But for some reason, my resistance comes because I think it's something other than that. It's something more important than just that.
Right.
The sense itself, of course, is in there. But that sentence is chewable for a long period of time.
Yeah.
And that loss is not only 8 worldly. It's only at this point.
Right. Right.
I don't think so. I think it's something bigger than that.
Yeah. This is of crucial, earth-shattering importance.
People suffer.
Yes, forever. Because this person said this. I can't let this go. Yeah. It's true, isn't it? How we hold on to, I don't want, like if you say I'm accepting the loss of an 8 worldly concern, then oh yeah, I want to lose the 8 worldly concerns. But if you think, this isn't the 8 worldly concerns, this is serious business, This is like the feeling of who I am, that the purpose of my life rests upon getting this approval, having this reputation, proving myself to the world, proving that I am worthwhile and I am good and I am creative and I am whatever it is, intelligent and I am good looking and I am athletic and I am da-da-da-da-da. That's the meaning of my life. I'm going to prove myself to this world until it believes me. That's a setup for suffering, isn't it? That is a setup for suffering. And then even the world believes us. I mean, this is the scene I run. I find this so helpful in my mind when my mind gets like that. I don't want to give this up. It's too important. Then, oh, okay, the world finally gets it. How wonderful I am. Yeah. So they send a big parade up the Abbey, drive up a country lane, up to the Abbey, with playing instruments and having pendants and all sorts of things, and a big banner, you're the most wonderful person in the world. And they all come walking up there towards me and bow at my feet and tell me that above all human beings on this planet, all 7 billion, I am the best of all of them. And I make that scene, because that's what my ego's wanting. That's what my wrong conception mind is wanting. So I blow it up really big. until the point where it's totally absurd. Totally absurd. What am I going to do, The whole world's there bowing to me, saying I'm wonderful. Finally, they've recognized that how wonderful I am. Then what am I going to do? Say, oh, thank you. I'm glad you noticed. And then what do I do the moment after that? What do I do the moment after that?
What do I want next?
That's it. What do I want next? Yeah. So I find it very helpful to make it into this absurd, humorous scene, so I can laugh at my attachment, to really something that's quite absurd.
I did that once when I was having a disagreement with somebody in the community here, and it was a difference of opinion. I said, okay, pretend that this person is totally in agreement and thinks that you have the greatest idea, and just keep it going. The litany of, you're so great, this is wonderful, I was so stupid to think of doing it any other way than the way that you wanted. It's nauseous. Okay, stop already. Stop. It does help.
Yeah.